What's up everybody, it's Kimberly. Welcome back to my channel. Now today's video, oh my gosh you guys, I wanted to do a video like this for so long because you guys are always asking me, literally since the advent of this channel, to make a video about how to talk to your parents about relationships. So if you have a crush, or if you're dating someone, or if your parents don't want you to date, or if you have feelings that you want to talk about and you need support, your parents are an awesome resource for that, even though sometimes it can be really awkward. And when I was growing up, I always wished that I had the relationship with my parents that I could be open with them about my relationships, and I feel like I really missed out. So today I'm gonna give you guys some tips on like how to talk to your parents, how to not make it awkward, and I'm gonna give you guys like the 5 different kind of categories that parents fall into, like different reactions that they have when you talk to them about relationships. And your parents might fall into like one of these categories, or they could be like a mix of a couple of different ones. And I'm gonna give you guys some advice based on things that I've learned as a relationship therapist on like how to talk to each different group of parents so that you get like the best possible benefit, and it's like totally relaxed and comfortable for you.
But I told you so.
Okay guys, so the first type of parent is the overbearing, oversharing parent. Now you're gonna recognize this parent because when you talk to them about relationships, they are going to get so excited. They're gonna ask you so many questions. They're gonna completely interrogate you. They're gonna wanna know every minute detail about your relationships, and they're going to pester you with questions every single time you see them until you dish the dirt to them. And for you, it's gonna feel so cringy and so awkward. So for you guys that watch movies, the best example of like a pop culture overbearing, oversharing parent is Regina George's mom in Mean Girls. She wanted to be one of the girls. She wanted to talk to them about like experiences that she had when she was younger, and it was all just TMI. It was not helpful for the girls in any way. If you have a parent like this, it is so awkward. Like your first instinct is just to honestly pull away and be like, I don't want to tell you anything, because if I give you any information, you're just gonna ask for more and more and more and more, and you're gonna make me feel uncomfortable, and you're gonna pester me constantly. So your first instinct is just back off and not tell them anything. Shutting them out of your life is also like not good. Like it's not good if they're completely overwhelming you, but it's also not good if you just don't have a relationship. So the best way to deal with a parent like this is actually to kind of set firm boundaries with them. So saying something like, hey mom, like I love that you want to ask me questions about my relationship, and I really want you to be involved in my life, but I was thinking that maybe I could come to you every time I have a problem or a question or I need advice, instead of you asking me questions all the time. Would that be okay? Like, does that work for you? Because your parent's gonna be so thrilled that you want them to be involved. If you set that boundary, it allows you to have some like space. In most cases, that is gonna give your parent the hint that they need to back off a little bit if they want any information at all, and most of the time they will. So honestly guys, like if you have an overbearing, oversharing parent, it doesn't have to be a bad thing if you know how to manage them in the right way. They can end up being a trusted ally for you, and that's really important. Oh my gosh, you guys, like I can relate so much to this next category. The second reaction that you can get from a parent when you're talking to them about relationships is that they go,
oh my God, you should not be dating. You're too young. We have rules in our culture about how you should date, and therefore you're not allowed.
Or we don't trust you to make good decisions on behalf of yourself because, hey, we give you an inch, you take a mile, you could end up pregnant. So like dating is off the table entirely. This category, guys, like I cannot even tell you how many DMs I get from you guys who fit into this category. Like your parents just tell you that basically dating is off the table, and that's that. And it can be so frustrating if you're in this category, because a lot of you guys are already dating, but you just feel like you can't bring it up to your parents because they're like, you're never gonna date till you're 30 or later. But also like this can give you like a weird guilt complex around relationships, as if you shouldn't be having them, which is not the case at all. Like actually having young relationships is so important and so healthy, and can help you practice and get ready for like more mature relationships later in your life. So you definitely don't want to miss out on having young relationships. But the question is like, how do you get your parents to warm up to the idea that you might have a boyfriend or that you might have a girlfriend? The key here is that you want to get your parents comfortable with the person that you like or the person that you're in a relationship with. And the best way to do that is to actually humanize that person. And how do you do that? This is a little bit sneaky, but one way that you can do that is to actually humanize your crush or your boyfriend or girlfriend to your parents by introducing them as a friend first. So if your parents actually know this person, they are going to feel a lot more comfortable with the idea of like dating or relationship because they trust them. And so your goal, it's not really about the concept of dating, it's more about introducing like people into your life. I know that like as soon as someone is human or as soon as a person meets someone else and realizes that they're a good person, so like say your crush or your boyfriend is like with you doing homework at the kitchen table and you've got mom and dad there and they're getting to know them in the context of you guys being friends, like they're going to be a lot more open to the possibility of that person being in your life because it's not some foreign concept like, oh, boys are so bad, you're going to get in so much trouble. No, it's like now you're opening up the door with like a person who they might actually really like. So when I was growing up, my parents definitely fit into this category a little bit more as well, where it was kind of like, oh, you shouldn't be dating because like you don't really have time for that and it's a waste of time because like you should be focused on your studies and that's the most important thing. So I remember that being really hard for me growing up because I had a lot of relationships when I was in high school. I had a lot of very short-term, most of the time relationships. That was definitely a big part of my life and my life with my friends. So I found it like really awkward to talk to my parents because I felt like they disapproved of my life or like what was going on. And it was such a big part of my life. I feel like it's such a big part of pretty much any young person's life is their relationships. So if you feel like you can't talk to them about that, it's almost like you feel like you're shut out from their life. And I wish I could go back and change that part of my relationship with my parents because I realize now that I could have had such a better, more fulfilling relationship with them. And I probably could have like handled some relationship situations better if I actually had some like more mature advice. So hopefully that helps you guys if you have parents who are like completely against dating. The third type of parent is the parent who is totally indifferent, or they're like, I don't want to know, like, cringe, that's my daughter, that's my son, like, ew, I don't want to know about your relationships, like, don't talk to me about that, gross. When you're this person, like, sometimes this can feel like a huge betrayal because it's like you want to talk to your parents about what's going on for you. So if a parent's like, ew, don't tell me about that, it can almost feel like they're abandoning you or that they're like putting a divide up between you so that you can't have a relationship. And that's really hard. My parents also fell into this category when I was growing up, and I was like, oh, this really sucks because I would love to talk to them and I felt like I couldn't when I was growing up. If you have this kind of parent, I find it works best to kind of like work them into dialogue with you. So like you might want to try starting somewhere that's like really not awkward, somewhere like the car where you're not looking in their eyes and having to be like, I'm in a relationship, or like, I like someone, I have a crush, because that's like really, really awkward. So start somewhere easy like the car. They can't run away from you. They can't be like, don't tell me that. You're just looking straight. And my best advice, start with questions to this type of parent. Instead of being like, I have a crush, or I'm in a relationship, or I am dating someone, you could say something like, Mom or Dad, like when you were young, did you ever have a relationship in high school? Or when did you start dating? Like something along those lines could be a really good conversation starter. Now, like they're gonna know that when you bring up this topic that you're wanting to talk about yourself. But the key is that it just kind of opens up the lines of communication so that you're now having a conversation and it's not awkward. You can ease in more questions or even things that are going on for you into that conversation, because once it's opened up, like it's easier from there. Starting small too is really helpful. Like don't just dive in there by being like, tell me about sex, Mom and Dad, but like start small. Just ask them something really easy so that it's like not hard for them to start talking to you about it. And then they probably won't have that attitude anymore of like, don't tell me about it, because you've already now like opened it up and it's not so bad. Yeah, and this is the kind of thing too that like will get easier and better over time if you keep engaging them. So for example, like if on day 1 you just talk about something small, and then on day 2 and day 3 you're talking about a little bit more, at the end of like a 6-month period, now you have like a really good rapport going. That's so much better than being at like no talk about relationships. I think any effort on your part is totally worth it, and then you might have like a more fulfilling relationship with this parent. parent. If it really doesn't work, like if you try to engage your parent and they just will not talk to you about relationships or what's going on for you, you can always find someone else in your life who you do trust or who will talk to you about it. Like maybe it's like a friend's parent who's like really open and honest about these things. It could be a counselor, an older cousin, a big brother or sister. But like finding someone else in your life that kind of fills that role is also, I mean, they're never going to be the same as your parent, but still it could be like really helpful for you to have like a big sister or, you know, someone older to lean on if you ever need them. Category 4, this is the kind of parent like I wish I had when I was growing up, and this is the kind of parent that I want to be for Cassie and Zach. And I hope to God I can be this way, because like this type of parent is awesome. I call them the science teacher because they make everything really about education. So this is the kind of parent that if you have them and you've asked them a question about relationships, they like bring the goods, they bring the resources. They'll basically give you a diagram of the human body and be like, this is where everything is, this is how it works. If you have any questions, like direct them this way. So they're very open about all things sexual, but they're also very factual about it so that it doesn't create like this weird awkwardness between you. They know that what you're going through is normal, and if you ask them a question, they'll usually respond with some kind of like research-oriented answer that makes you feel like you're not being judged. So this is like probably the best kind of parent to have when it comes to relationships, and you're really lucky if you have this kind of parent. And if they don't know something, they're probably gonna have the resources to find out, or they'll like have that curiosity where they'll like want to find out for you so that they can help you. The only fault of this parent, and this doesn't happen all the time, but the only trap that this parent can fall into is that sometimes when you're talking about your relationships, that's also like really tied in with your feelings, or you need like a hug if you've broken up with your boyfriend or your girlfriend. This type of parent isn't always the best at feelings. Sometimes they keep things really clinical, and that can be good most of the time. If you want that compassion and empathy and connection, you can initiate that with your parent too, by like giving them a hug or by asking them or talking to them about your feelings. So it doesn't always have to be clinical, but you are super lucky if you have this kind of parent. And then finally, guys, the last kind of parent on my list of like, you know, parents who react to your relationships is like the chill, cool parent. They're not like the science teacher because they don't whip out a whole bunch of resources when you ask them questions, but they are there for you, and they've probably set the tone so that you do feel comfortable coming in and talking to them about relationships, but they also have checked in with you previously so that like they kind of know what's up. Like they've checked in with you multiple times about like what's going on for you in that department. This type of parent is different from parent number 1, the overbearing, oversharing parent, because they're not pestering you about like having to tell them every little minute detail about your relationships, but they're just kind of there for you when you want to talk. And they also aren't going to overshare with you about all the things that happened when they were young. Like it's just about you. Like they're just there, and you feel totally comfortable to approach them when you need to. The main thing about this parent is that they do create that safe space for you, so that even though you might not talk about relationships all the time with them, you know that they're there for you like when you really need them, and that's the most important thing. So if you have the chill parent, you can also rejoice because you're very lucky, and you probably don't need to set any boundaries. They're probably good. They're probably not infringing on you. But the truth is, guys, like your parents may fall into like a couple of different categories on this list. Like they might be a combo of like 2 different types of parent. I'm curious to know like what kind of parents you guys have. So maybe leave me a comment down below of like what category or categories your parents fall into and how they deal with you talking to them about your relationships. And if I've missed any, or if your parents like not one of these main categories or something else, like tell me about that down below too, because like there might be someone else that fits into your situation. All right, you guys, I hope this video was helpful for you, and I definitely hope to make more videos like this in the future. I will see you guys next week for another video all about relationships. Bye!